Okay, people keep telling me to do videos on things that I'm working on. So, I guess I'll do another. Tonight I'm going to do a rebuild on the rear brake caliper on this CBX. This is also my bike. I have a ton of time and work in this thing. But the rear brake caliper, the pistons are corroded and they get sticky if there's not a brand new set of pads on. If the pistons are out at all, they get hung up, the brakes drag. The rotor's pretty smoked, but I'm going to let that go for now. We're going to concentrate on making the caliper work right. And I have a stainless braided line. Master cylinder's already been rebuilt. I didn't paint it. Because things are only original once. Not everything has to be restored perfect. Sometimes shit like that tells the story of it. Or it just looks like hell. Take your pick. Stainless braided line. So let's pop this caliper off and give it a quick rebuild. I guess the first step is we want to get all the fluid out of it. Let's see, one of these pans has a hose in it. This guy. Nasty shit in that pan. So I don't want to get any brake fluid on this bike, so I am not going to push the caliper out with the master cylinder. Sorry, the pistons. Maybe partially out, but not all the way out. I don't want to take a chance of getting brake fluid on this thing anywhere. We'll pop the side panel off. Our brake master reservoir is in here under the seat. And I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Do I want to dump the fluid first or after? I think I'll pull it off and then drain the fluid. I'm just going to hook the camera here. And hopefully you'll be able to see most of what's going on. But I'll take this off. Not a whole lot to these. Already got tools over here. Need a 12. Knock that bolt out. This bolt won't come all the way out with this exhaust on it, but it's fine. There's plenty of room. Take the top bolt out, and then we'll probably have to fight with getting this off of the rotor. I'm going to take the this is the retainer for the pins that keep the pads in place. I'm going to take this off now. Get that out of the way. And before I pull the caliper, I'm going to find something to lay over the exhaust. Yeah, good old bath towel. Good thing I'm single. There's nobody to yell at me for using this. So we'll see. Get this bolt out, see if the caliper will come off easily or not. There is a lip worn on both sides of this rotor, which I should grind off or machine off, but I'm going to replace the rotor one of these days when I care enough. We've got the caliper off. I'm going to move this up so you can see what's going on. I have to take these two pins out to let the pads fall out. Usually these are stuck and you have to fight with them, but I've had these apart recently. Pull one. Pull the other. Pads will fall out. The other bolt comes out finally. Now what I'm going to do is pump the pedal. I'm going to push these pistons out, but not to the point where they come out past the seal, because I really don't want to blow brake fluid everywhere. I will fight with them with channel locks later. Like I said, these pistons are going to be replaced. It doesn't matter if I mar them up with pliers or whatever. So that one's about out to the end of its travel. So you can stick anything in here as a spacer. That's not going to work too well. I don't think I'll be reusing these pads, so I should be able a little more on that one, and that will hold that. So the second piston will come most of the way out. And if you can't see right here, that seal is rolled out. That's the outer seal. And all these rust pits in here are from this thing sitting and just being 44 years old in general, but these get caught on this seal in here, and then the pistons won't retract when you let off the brakes, then the brakes drag. And not to mention the seals, the internal seals swell up and make more drag. So I get the pistons most of the way up. Let's see if I can get a little more. I feel like I'm pushing my luck at this point with that one. And I'll do this. We'll put a wrench in there. So I get the other one to come up a little more. There, they're starting to rock around, so they're almost at the very end of their travel. I'm not getting brake fluid on this bike, if I can help it. It washes off. It's okay if you do get brake fluid all over something. Wash it off really good right away with water. Usually you're fine. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put my hose over top of this bleeder. And take an 8mm, open the bleeder up. You should probably start that with a box end so you don't round it off. And I'll pull the cap off of the master cylinder reservoir. The rubber diaphragm out. And we're going to pump the fluid out and hope the pistons don't come with it. So I've got the hose attached to the bleeder, and I can't tell if the fluid's actually gravity draining on its own or if there's just air coming up from around the threads. But I don't want to wait that long, so if we just keep pumping the pedal, it will dump all the fluid out. You can hear we're sucking air in this now. I'm also going to replace the rubber line with a braided stainless, and I want to get as much fluid as possible out of this. to avoid spilling too much on the bike anywhere. If I can help it, I don't feel like dragging the garden hose out and bringing it in here and washing this thing off tonight. So if I have to, I will. We're pretty well out of fluid. That's about as good as we're going to get. I'm going to go ahead and snug the bleeder shut. I'll be pulling that back out later to clean it. We're going to put this in the ultrasonic and clean it out really good, so the bleeder will be out. And now we got to crack that line loose. The easiest way to do that is with a 3/8 impact, unless you want to really hang on to the caliper and fight with it. So I'm going to remount the camera. And we'll go get the little impact in a 14. So we're going to take the banjo bolt out. This is probably going to leak fluid. That's what the towel's for. Now our caliper's off. Can dump it out, drain it out, whatever we're going to do. Drain it out. Pull the banjo. Normally I would say don't lose your washers or replace your washers. Don't lose your bolt, but I've got a new line here. I don't think it comes with a banjo bolt, but it does come with new washers. That's okay, it's not dumping piss and fluid everywhere. Now we'll go over to the secondary workbench that is a mess and take the caliper apart. So what I'm going to do now, get this slider pin out of here. Obviously this rubber is in really bad shape. That will get replaced. Don't need those. Slider pin, clean that up, reuse it. I'm going to see if I can get the pistons out with just channel locks. I might have to go get compressed air and screw around with it, but if I'm lucky, yep, they were already pretty well all the way out. Just twist, pull. Caliper is making a frickin' mess everywhere because I forgot to dump the rest of it out. This is why there's cardboard on my workbench. Way easier to clean it up. Just throw the piece of cardboard away, replace it, go on about your day. So we've got the pistons out. There's not a lot of crud in there, considering I did not pull this one apart after this bike sat almost 20 years. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the bleeder. Get that out of there. Now look at those pistons. Those are terrible. That's why they stick. And then all that does is also it just tears the seals up, and then the seals end up leaking fluid. So now what we need to do is get, it's hard to see in here, get this inner seal, this lip seal, and then this outer seal out of both of these bores. Usually a pick works okay. You just be careful about scratching up the aluminum that the caliper is made out of. You only want to damage the seal if you're going to rip it out. Get those with a pick, pull them out of there. This bore's probably going to need wire brushed. It's corroded. This inner lip seal is the most important one. We got both the seals out of both bores. And I'll be honest, I don't have any brake clean tonight. I ran out. We're going to pull the spring out. There, the caliper's stripped. I'm going to drop it straight in the ultrasonic. Sure, I might as well show that. I wish my screen would stay on. Okay, come over here. Amazon Special Ultrasonic. This little thing actually works pretty good. It's a 2-gallon ultrasonic. It takes for goddamn ever to warm up though. If you got to use this thing hot, turn it on 2 hours ahead of time and you might get there. Take your caliper, drop it straight in. And what I use in this is 50-50 simple green. I put a gallon of simple green and a gallon of distilled water in it. And it works really well. And it's not overly expensive to change it. So let's run it. I'm going to give it 20 minutes and we'll be back. Enough of that crap. Probably clean enough, as clean as this one's going to get. And half the powder coat will probably blow off. That's okay. I'm going to blow this off. Yeah, somebody spray painted this at some point and it's coming off everywhere, so. Well, like I said, I'm not worried about this looking show quality. But if you can see, right in here, there's a lot of corrosion. And I gotta get that out of there so the new seals will seal up well. You can carefully scrape a little bit. You should get a little wire brush, which I will do. I'll get some of the bigger stuff with the pick. And then we'll wire brush the rest of that out of there. As clean as we can get it for its age. It's never going to be perfect. Let me find a brush. Okay, got our stainless steel wire brush. And we're just going to keep going around in here until we get all the corrosion and crud out of it. And this takes a while. Take your time, do it right. There's so much in there, it's hard to see if it's just dust or if it's actually clean. It's worse on the top because it's where the air sits. A lot of times it's worse on the bottom side because the moisture gets in the fluid and hangs down there. I believe water is still heavier than brake fluid. In this case it's worse on the top. When I bought this bike, all the fluid leaked out of everything. The brakes didn't work, the carburetors were in really bad shape. I should have done a video on rebuilding the carbs and the forks and everything else I did to it, replacing the clutch, and I didn't. And that's why people keep telling me to do videos on this stuff. So here we are. If you don't like my videos, too bad. I don't care either way. Clean this face up a little bit. I don't care about getting the aluminum rods dirty up there. That engine project stalled a long time ago because the machine shop took too long for my pistons and the whole car got pushed out of the way. I'll get to it someday. So I'm going to blow all the dust out of this now. There we go. Looks like shit, is actually clean. Like I said, somebody spray painted this. When you put spray paint in an ultrasonic, it really just peels it right off. Most of it's off. It does get under powder coat and screw up powder coat too. So be mindful of that if you use an ultrasonic for anything. So the bores look clean. The grooves for the seals look pretty good. About as good as this is going to get. Little piece of dirt in there. Do that. Now we got our brake crafters kit. I've used these before. They seem to be pretty damn good quality. Better than some of the others. Got our new pistons, some lube, new bleeder, seals, slider rubbers, and the best part, a sticker. You always got to have stickers. Can never have enough of those. So we're going to start with putting the seals in. And some seals are directional, some are not. So we'll have to look at these. Small ones will go in last. These large seals looks to be square. There's no lip on one side or the other. So these are non-directional. A lot of times you'll have a lip on one side, that way the fluid pressure pushes and expands the seal more. These are not, so we're going to lube our seals up and just work them down into the grooves. Which is not always as easy as it sounds. Don't use anything sharp so you don't cut it. There we go. Inner seal's in. Take the outer seal. Put a little lube on that. And work that around into the groove. Do the other inner seal, work it into the groove. Another outer seal, lube it. Work that into the groove. Now the fun part is getting the pistons in. So we'll get these opened up. hell kind of paper they wrap this one with that it won't tear off. There we go. Take some of the lube, put it around the pistons. Then you have to get them in here without rolling the seal over or damaging the seal. So you just wiggle them around. And it goes right in just like butter. Same with this one, lube it up. Push it in there. You just have to feel for it. You rotate it around and wobble it like that, and you will feel it drop into that seal centered. Once it goes in both, just shove it right in, nice and smooth. And these seals and this pin are a real pain in the ass, so I might have to clip this part out when I start cussing at it. My videos aren't monetized anyway. I don't have enough subscribers. I've never put enough effort into YouTube for gaining subscribers. I just post a bunch of weird random shit that doesn't make any sense instead of videos like this. So we got the rubbers in. We'll try to put, I know this is not going to go well. I'll put this in, actually I need to grease that first. I have some old school EP lube that works really good for slider pins and doesn't seem to break down with the heat. So I use this, it works well. I don't know if I'm in the camera or not. So we'll schmoo some of that on. See if we can get the pin started. There we go. We gotta get the seal, boot seal, whatever you want to call it. Get that into this groove. And just maybe oh, these things are fucking miserable. Well, we'll go like that. We'll push it out past. We'll get this one worked into the groove in the caliper. There we go. The idea is to get the flat of the piston in there, and it holds that lip into that groove. Now we got to get this one into the outer groove of the pin and not rolled over. That's rolled. That's fine. There we go. Pin's in. That's what it should look like, and that's how it should move, nice and free. All your slider pins should always move like that. We'll drop our spring back in. Me personally, I put a very, very small amount of lube on this slider and this pin, or on this spring, on all of my bikes. I don't think it says anywhere in any manual you're supposed to do that, but I do it. Keeps it from corroding up and sticking there, but if you put more than just a film on, it could drip down onto your brakes, and you don't want that. There's some extra lube. Got a brand new bleeder and a cap and fitting washers. We'll take our bleeder. Actually, the rubber goes on that way. Screw our new bleeder in loosely. We still have to bleed the brakes. There it is, rebuilt caliper. All I gotta do is put it back on the bike and put this rubber on with the other pin. Let's go put it back on and bleed the brakes. Okay, now that we've got the caliper rebuilt, I'm also replacing this line with a stainless braided line, and somebody has chowdered these all the fuck in the past, and they're just spot welded to the torque. I think this is called a torque arm, but they're spot welded on, and somebody chowdered the shit out of them, so I'm just going to work with what I have. We'll get those out, hang the line over the exhaust so I don't get fluid anywhere. I'll take a 14 wrench. I'm not, because it doesn't fit. This guy's in the way. I think I can get this ratchet wrench in here. And loosen this banjo off. Holy shit, that's tight. That's where you bust your hands open. Alright, so banjo's loose, I'll unscrew it. A little bit of fluid dripping out of the line. Be mindful of where it's going. You don't want to flick the line around and toss brake fluid up in the air, and that's how you get it all over the top of your bike and not realize it. And then it eats the paint and the decals off. Okay, so old line off. Got our new line right here. Look at that. That's pretty nice. Because let's be honest, 45-year-old rubber brake lines are probably not the best thing to be riding on. Even on a bike like this, it's about 100 horsepower, but it'll still go almost 140. And if you blow a brake line at that speed, you're probably not going to have a very good day. Okay, we've got our new braided line. So what we start with is banjo bolt, a seal washer. I'm going to put the line on this way because at this angle, the master cylinder's up here and the line needs to come out and go to here, to this torque arm. So I'll put it on this way. So you do a washer on either side of your banjo. And come back here and try to get the damn thing started in. And we'll see how it lines up. That actually does look pretty good. We're not going to tighten this end just yet. We're going to screw it almost all the way in, but leave it loose enough that it can pivot until we get everything else together and lined up. So screw that in. It actually looks really nice. Comes right out and lines up there. This end might be a little bit of a bear to get on the caliper, but it is what it is. So what I'm going to do next, so I got the caliper. I took these pads out. These are honestly some really cheap AHL pads that I happen to have around, and these are for a GL 1500 rear, and the 8182 CBX uses the same brake pad on all three. So I also have a set of EVC HH that are Yeah, they're a little worn, but we're going to throw these on the rear of this one and use them because that rotor's not in the greatest shape in the first place, so it doesn't matter too much. If you know, these pads are a little rough on your brake rotors, but they do stop well, and I like the HH pads. So we're going to put a pad in, and what you have to do is push it up and compress that spring in here, if you can see it. Compress the spring and put one of your pins in. Yeah, sometimes they're hard to do. There we go. Get the pin part way in. Do the same on the other pin. Start it in. Bring your other crusty pad out here. Push in. Bring the pin out through that one. Same on this one. And we put the pin retainer on. This is important, and I've bought 2 motorcycles that this pin retainer clip was missing completely. This being one of them. One of my Gold Wings was the other. These are the same for a lot of bikes. There's a lot that'll interchange, and some are different part numbers, but you just slide it down. That holds the pins in, and obviously put in the bolt and tighten it. I know those pads kind of look like shit, but they'll wear in. They're laying around in the drawer, and I figure I better use them up. Because the EBC HH pads aren't exactly cheap. So I've got two new pairs for the front, but the rear I'm going to just use these. I don't use a whole lot of rear brakes. I'm not a heavy rear brake user. I am more of a front brake user. So the caliper's loaded up, rebuilt. We got to take this rubber out and replace it. Normally you would need to clean this hole out right here and make sure it's clean and lubricated. I'm not going to bother with it because I've already done it when I went through this bike before I started to ride it. So we're going to get that. These are a pain to start in this groove too. Actually, I'm going to get a pick and clean that out. Do I need to move the camera? Yeah, probably. Move the camera a little bit here. So I'm going to take a pick. Oh yeah, that's why it wouldn't go in. Clean this groove out that the rubber goes into. Get all the gunk out of there so the new one will seat into place right. And then this goes in the groove, and they are not always easy to start. Once you finally get them in, they stay in pretty well, but sometimes getting these to go in place can be aggravating. Because like that, they fold up. Instead of expanding into the groove, they want to fold. And there, twisted, turn a little bit. There it is. It's in there. I'm going to take my pick with some grease and just add a small amount of grease in here. Like I said, I've already cleaned this out and lubed it and made sure it works, but I'm just going to add a little bit. You don't want to pack these full because then it hydrolocks. This is your other slider for your caliper. This screws to the caliper, and this has to move freely, and you don't want to pack it because if you hydrolock it, you'll pretty well just push that seal out open, but it can cause the caliper to drag. So we're going to go ahead, set the caliper back on. try to get this started through the rubber. There it goes. And threaded straight. Get that one screwed in. I don't know if you heard that on camera, but that sounded like somebody I know going by on their Harley, revving their engine at me, which is a normal thing here, and I don't mind. Click. Did you hear that torque spec? That was my torque wrench. You really should torque these to spec, but I'm going to be that guy and say I've been working on this stuff so long I know what tight is and what isn't on these. So click. Who does that? So this seems just a smidge long, so what we're going to do is let the end up here rotate a little bit. I kind of figured this line was going to be this way. I'm blocking the camera completely. So I'm going to try to get this line on here, and they don't, they should have made these ends 90 degrees off of each other the way they're crimped on, but they didn't, so we have to deal with it. But there's not a whole lot of other option for these bikes. I tried to order from a different company and placed an order for 8182 CBX braided brake lines, and 2 minutes later it was refunded, and I sent them an email to ask why, and no response. So I guess they don't want to sell anything. Oh, this is going to be wonderful. Yeah, they really should have made these ends 90 degrees off of each other, not lined up square. So when it tightens down, it'll be okay. It's just a little hard to get started, but we're good. I don't want to mar that up and get a bunch of shavings in my brake caliper either. So we'll just snug that down. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this end actually. And we'll try to find the best way to route this brake line and take some of the twist out of it. That actually looks pretty good. I'll probably get some rubber insulators or isolators and put in here so the line doesn't wear through over time. Put that line up. It's honestly kind of in the way of my remote shock line going that way, so let me flip it down. That'll work. Can you see anything? Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm going to run this down like that. And maybe I shouldn't, because if the suspension travels up and the swing arm, I don't think the swing arm moves quite that far, but if the swing arm happens to hit this and knock it off of there, that would be an issue. So I'm going to leave it right there where it's at. Whoops, about knocked the camera over. And I can't get that in there. I've got the swivel head ratchet and a short 14 socket. Maybe, just maybe, if I can get the damn thing on there. I'm going to hold up on this line a bit. There's a torque spec for these too. It's right about the point it crushes the washers a little bit. And if it leaks, tighten it some more. Not overly impressed with the fitment of this line. It's a little long. I mean, what else can I do with it to make it look nicer? I don't think anybody will really pay attention to it in the first place. Tighten the rear one up, a little snug. Looks good. Okay, so apparently these do swivel, and that's what this is for. You put this in a vise on here and rotate it to get rid of the line twist. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that back off there. I guess I missed that memo because we don't look at the instructions until after we're done fighting with things. After I was complaining about the fitting not being turned 90 degrees. It says right in the instructions how to do it. You put this guy on here in the vise, and then you can rotate the end. So rather than take this line off, I'm just going to get a hold of this with vice grips. Let's do things the hard way. But now I know that's how you learn stuff. Seems tight enough. So typically you'd put that in a vise. It comes with this plastic stick, and you can use that as leverage. Look at that, rotates the end. That worked out pretty well. Much better. Let's see, which way was that on? So I'll put the line back on. Snug it down good. Don't get carried away or you'll break the banjo bolt or pull the threads out. See what I can do with that. The rubbers on the old line are not, these aren't split, but I could probably just cut them off and put them over top of the braided line. Let's do that. Let's just go ahead and cut these long ways without cutting my finger off. And we'll peel them off. And I'm sorry if you can't see, I don't know where the camera's pointed exactly. Split that one. Peel it off. Move the peg. So what I did was I cut these off of the old brake line, except it tore there. We're going to put these over the new braided line. And schmutz them back in place here. Now I'll at least help. That won't wear through the line. And I'm going to crimp these back together. I'm positive this is not the correct way to do this. But you know what? It works. Short of just cutting them off and putting something way better looking on here. This will do the job. Like I said, somebody already mangled the shit out of these things, so, you know, there was a lot of shoddy work on this bike. I don't remember if I tightened this end, so I'm going to check it. Pretty sure I did. Oh yeah, it's tight. Okay, that's tight, that's tight. The bleeder is not tight. Open the bleeder cap. Move the camera back. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. This only has one screw. It actually kind of latches into the back side of the caliper and on the top of it. And one screw retains it. And now it's time for brake fluid, and we'll bleed the brakes out. I don't know why I say we, because it's only me here right now. Maybe I'm talking to the one single person that watches my videos and then calls me an idiot. Need my 8mm. So what I'm going to do to start is just snug that down. Let me see what the camera's looking at here. You can pretty well see everything. This is not .3, this is .4. I reuse this bottle because I buy a gallon of brake fluid at a time. So don't get all bent out of shape. Tell me I'm using the wrong brake fluid. I find a little funnel because it's a whole lot easier than taking the seat off of this thing. Maybe not. This is kind of a bitch on this bike. Maybe I just need a longer funnel. Doing this shit without spilling brake fluid is difficult. Okay, now open the bleeder. I doubt this thing will gravity bleed. I'm not even going to wait and find out. I'm just going to push the pedal down. Pump it a couple times. When you pump these, pump them slow. If you pump real fast, it aerates the fluid. Then you have more trouble bleeding out in the end. Alright, so I'm just going to push down, open, close. I'm going to keep doing this because what this does is pumps a little bit of air through it every time. And eventually you get fluid back down into the master cylinder. This bleeder is not sealing too well. Move you over a little bit more. And now the bleeder's sealed. Which you can see, I don't know if you can see, I can see that the fluid in the line is moving every time I do this in the rubber hose that's on the bleeder. So we're getting movement. Push down, open, close. Let it up. Push down, open, close. There, now we're starting to get fluid already. And the piston's pumped up, pushed out. And that caliper moves a little funny because the bore is worn for this pin and the bore is worn for this pin, but it's fine. Actually bled out pretty easy. And the brake pedal feel is already a lot better with that braided stainless line on it. And I'd call that bled out. That went pretty quick. Add a little more fluid and I'll bleed it a few more times. Well, this is really not easy to get anything in here. We'll give her a few more, just for safe measure. Tighten the bleeder a little bit more, and I'm going to call that good. Take the hose off. Try to get some of the brake fluid soaked up out of the end of the bleeder. Give this another little snug. Put the cap on. Put the reservoir cap on. Fluid level's about right in the middle, between upper and lower. That's all the more we need. It's better to have your brake fluid slightly lower than when you do brakes and you push your pistons back in. You don't overflow it. Just in case you don't remember to open the bleeder. Other than lining these up a little bit, I might do a little bit of work here. Make that look a little more presentable. Other than that, I think we're done. Brakes feel good and bled out. There's no fluid pissing out around the pistons in here that I can tell. I don't see it dripping on the floor. There's no leaks here. No leaks around that banjo. Looks good. Maybe the next video will be the front brakes on this. Maybe I won't do any more at all. Okay, brakes are all done on this. It's kind of late. I'm not going riding. Time for a beer. Pour one out for Ozzy. See you next time.